Welcome to Jazz in the Land, the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra podcast, featuring your host, Darrell Scott.
Greetings, everyone. This is Darrell Scott, and you're about to listen to Jazz in the Land, the official CJO podcast. Got a couple of very interesting guests. We're going to learn a lot. There's an anniversary coming up, and they're going to talk about this anniversary between the Musical Theater Project. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you one Paul Ferguson. If you've ever been to a CJO concert, this is the guy standing up there, Paul, don't take offense, and waving his arms.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, waving his arms. And the other gentleman is Bill Rudman. Bill is from the Musical Theater Project. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darrell.
Good to be here.
Thank you. The first thing I want to talk about is your roles. So, Paul, tell us what you do, and then Bill, tell us what you do and how this Musical Theater Project got started. Gentlemen, to you.
Well, for me, what I do is I take a script that Bill provides, and within that script are usually about 20 to 25 songs by a composer who has made a serious impact on musical theater in the last 125 years or so. So over the last 11 years, we've done Rodgers and Hart, we've done Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, several George Gershwin programs. So it's my responsibility and my pleasure and my honor to arrange those pieces in a way that contains, I'll say, a marriage of jazz flavor while being faithful to its musical theater roots. And so the fact that this is the 10th show that we have done suggests something about the durability of the project that we've embarked on. And anyway, I spent 2 hours this morning working on some Hoagy Carmichael tunes, and it was just a great way to start the day. So.
Bill, before you answer, when you say that you take their renditions and you make changes or things like that, what exactly does that mean? What are you doing?
Okay, well, first of all, for example, I'll look at a song like Evelyn Wright is going to sing Georgia on My Mind by Hoagy Carmichael, okay? So I need to consult with her to make sure it's in her right key, okay? She has certain notes that get too high. She has certain notes that get too low. So I need to make sure that that works. And then I need to provide a setting, a groove. So it could be kind of sometimes the song is kind of slow and mournful. Bo bay, boom boom, good do dee dee. Or it could be a little faster. It could have a strong beat. It could have a subtle beat. It could have more of a Southern flavor. You could give it more of a New York flavor if you wanted. I could add some different harmonies, but I need to kind of stay informed by what Hoagy Carmichael had in mind. So in the end, I'm hoping to present something that is honest while also being innovative and also being faithful. So it's kind of like religious faith, I guess. You want it to have elements of honesty. You want to have elements of faithfulness, but you also want to have moments of innovation and new ways of looking at things. That's kind of what jazz is about for me.
So I'm going to divert for a quick second. So, Paul, this is just me. It's nobody else. It's just me.
Yeah.
So what I would like to hear is, I would like to hear the original version that you are taking and making the changes, and then watch you guys take that interpretation and put it to our ears. I think that, to me, that's interesting.
Yeah.
To me, it's okay, here's A, but now this is what I've done, and here's B. And can I hear both of them? It doesn't have to be at the same time, but just as long as I can hear both of them. That's just me. I'm just saying.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And you don't have to take that into consideration. You can say what most people say when I give them ideas. Yeah, right there. Just go away. Bill, your function with the Musical Theater Project.
Well, I founded it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I got it started 27 years ago. And the mission of it is to celebrate the American musical as a great American art form. So that's in a nutshell what it is. But I'm going to edit Paul just in one respect. And I also think it's interesting to talk for a minute about how we even got to be a matchup on this series. But the thing that Paul said about, well, he gets a script from me, blah blah. We talk a lot about, who the composer is that we want to celebrate, and it's very important from the very beginning that we work really closely. So I do write a script because these aren't just live performances. They're combined with multimedia and my commentary and Paul's commentary. So we're really giving you a perspective on whatever the music is that we're presenting. And Paul is using, Gershwin and Porter, Rodgers and Hart. We've done any number of composers, lyricists that contributed mightily to the American musical, but we don't do them. We only choose them if they really made an impact on what Paul and I would call the Great American Songbook. So they transcend musicals, quote unquote, and they really have become part of our culture, and particularly in the jazz world. I mean, the jazz world is steeped in the tradition of the Great American Songbook, and it just so happens that the Great American Songbook was produced by a lot of composers and lyricists who wrote for stage and screen. So it's all this stuff coming together and making a very interesting mix. I can tell you, it may sound pretentious, I don't think there's anybody else in the country that does exactly what Paul and I do.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. Bill would know too. He keeps track of this stuff pretty well. So
We're coming up on a 10-year anniversary. What does that anniversary entail, and what has been done in the past?
Well, we're doing a concert in much the same way we always do. Paul, just jump in whenever you want. But I mean, there's something very celebratory about taking a look and a listen to Hoagy Carmichael, who was a major, major figure in jazz beginning in the late 1920s, but who also wrote a lot of stuff for movies. So it's a really cool mix of our two worlds. And I like to say that, I know just enough about jazz that I'm a good collaborator with Paul, and he knows just enough about musical theater that he's a good collaborator with me. And if you put the two of us together, there's really kind of a synergy. We go at this material, even though he's doing jazz treatments, we go at the material with the same kind of philosophy.
yeah, you're trying to tell a story. I mean, all of these tunes that we do, if the setting was different and I wanted to do a really abstract arrangement, well, like the song Stardust, this would be the fourth or fifth time I've arranged the song. First time was for the Tommy Dorsey Band. That filled a certain function. Second time was for the Akron Symphony. Then I did an arrangement for the Cleveland Pops, then an arrangement for Ernie Krivda, and now for the musical theater project. So each one has a different mission, in a sense, a different sort of appropriateness you try to get to.
Yeah.
And so make it work like that. One thing that struck me was that 11 years ago, next month, will be one of the first musical theater project shows I saw, and that was Harold Arlen. I saw that out at the Eastern campus at Tri-C. And it struck me that in covering Hoagy Carmichael, Carmichael and Gershwin and Arlen were all born within about 6 years of each other.
Yeah.
And so with Gershwin, we have this sort of sophisticated Manhattan thing. With Arlen, we have Manhattan, but we also it's imbued with some flavor of the Cotton Club, where Arlen worked. But now Gershwin probably went there time to time, but he didn't really sit in or wasn't involved. He wasn't deeply involved in the place. So there's a difference there between Arlen's participatory style and Gershwin's I'll kind of go alone style. And then Hoagy offers kind of a Midwestern sensibility. It's all these songs about rivers and the moon up in the sky and Stardust, and it's more of a nostalgic, it's a little bit of a Midwestern flavor, and songs about rivers and his friendship with Bix Beiderbecke, who was from a river town, Davenport, Iowa. So it's a different sort of sensibility, but three major figures in popular song and jazz, all born 6 years from each other between 1898 and 1904, I believe. So,
yeah. Well, we really deal with a golden age. We're putting what we would call classic song material out there. And we certainly hope that because of the way we do it, due to the commentary, due to Paul's approach to the arrangements, due to what the singer brings to it, we want the audience to hear Stardust in a way they've never heard it before, because there are all these factors that are converging that make it fresh. And I think, Paul, that all of these shows have been very, very fresh.
No, yeah, and I just one thing to just kind of shift away from the composers is that the performers I get to write for include Jack Shantz, Brad Wagner, and Joe Hunter, and a variety of other saxophone players, and myself. So it's like writing a play in a way. I mean, Bill has a script, but I have my own play scenes, like within the arrangements I do. And it's like, okay, I need the taste of Jack Shantz right here. I need a little taste of Wagner right here. So, I hate to mention my name in the same sentence as Duke Ellington, but that was Ellington's approach. Okay, I need a little splash of Johnny Hodges here. I need a little bit of Jimmy Hamilton on clarinet. I need Caddy Anderson at the end to play some high notes and finish this thing off. So I get to do that with my friends of many, many years in the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra. So I've always enjoyed being a playwright, and now I get to write 25 small scenes for the show. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm writing scenes in the script. And I think one of the most gratifying things for Paul and me, if I can speak for you on this, Paul, is the artists we work with love doing these shows because there's nothing else like them. Jack Shantz keeps saying, "Oh, these should be touring all over the place." Da, da, da. They look forward to this adventure every year, and in many cases, the songs that we choose for these shows are rarely heard. So, I mean, I think it's a good mix of things that people know really well, like Stardust, but stuff that they probably have never heard before in their lives. But if you give it a context in terms of Hoagy and his background and his philosophy and all that stuff, I would say these concerts are really rich. They're not just fresh; they're very rich, and there are a bunch of different layers to them that audiences can really connect to.
In the short time that we have spent together, this conversation, it seems that the two of you have such a synergy when you're working on this. Number one, I can't wait to sit in the audience and hear what's going on. But how do you two create that synergy? How are you two meshed together to put this product out?
I think we just like a lot of the same music. When I drive to gigs on Saturday nights, I always try to listen to Bill's radio program. Is it Broadway Melody?
It's
Bill?
called locally. It's called Footlight Parade.
Footlight Parade. I'm sorry. And it's just a learning experience for me. So, but I usually know enough about the songs Bill is playing on his show that I can relate it to something else that I knew. And that's one thing about a friendship or a musical collaboration. You don't need to know somebody in totality. I don't know myself in totality, but you know somebody else enough where you can make enough strong connections where, like with Bill, I just feel like this is a man that I've enjoyed learning from for 11 years and looking forward to hopefully many more. And that's true with most composers. My wife makes a joke. I'll be listening to one of my favorite pieces is Maurice Ravel's Piano Trio. It has all these beautiful jazz chords in it. And I tell her, Ravel and I, we would have been friends.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I would have said, Maurice, I just love what you did in bar 5. And Maurice Ravel probably would have said, I'm glad you noticed that. Most people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
my relationship with Bill. I mean, it's like we both sort of know what makes each tune extra special. And one thing Bill mentioned is that there's a lot of songs, about half the songs of that I'm arranging, I didn't know. I mean, Hoagie's true standards number about 5 or 6 of those songs that people play all the time. But then, there's a bunch of other songs that will be not familiar. However, they all fit. You listen to them and say, that sounds like a Hoagy Carmichael song. That makes perfect sense. And it's beautiful.
I can't let what Paul just said go without saying that when he says that he learns from me, that works both ways. And that's why there's this synergy. We learn from each other in the act of putting, these are very complex, complicated shows, Darrell, I gotta say. You'll find that out when you come to see it. But I think because we're working with jazz musicians and singers and just really top flight artists, I would like to think, Paul, that we make it look pretty easy when in fact it's not easy at all.
I would encourage you, Darrell, to come to our rehearsal. It's at my home.
Yep.
And that way I could sort of show you how the songs are transformed and what we did. And some of the transformation takes place in rehearsal. You'll hear stuff and say, oh, we should try this differently, fiddle with a few notes, change a little rhythmic feel or whatever. So I would encourage you to come to my home. I think it's the third Monday of January. And the food's good. And we have a really nice time in my home we have the whole band here in my living room. And to me, those are some of my favorite days of the year, Bill. I don't know about you.
Yeah, me too. Well, particularly because you're such a good cook.
Well, we have a great time. It's just a very nice communal feeling, and that's important. You have to like who you're working with. It works out nicely.
Well, Paul, I will definitely take you up on that offer. Let me ask this: has there ever been an occasion when one of you has surprised the other with what you've done, or vice versa?
Well, I would just say the thing that I love about jazz is that jazz is about surprise. So, literally every piece of music that we explore here surprises me in one way or another. And not just in terms of the music, but we haven't talked about lyrics yet. It's not a song unless it has both music and words. And in the case of the great songwriters and songwriting teams, they took the lyrics really seriously. And if you have terrific singers, as we do for these shows, they live inside the story that they are telling, not only musically, but in terms of the words.
That's so interesting. I can't wait to see the rehearsal. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah, I'm really glad you come to the rehearsal because those are it just sounds so good in my living room too. Everything's real nice and compact. Playing on a large stage is nice. You're with an audience, but when you're in a smaller room,
yeah,
and the audience is ourselves. I mean, we just have a wonderful time. So come on out. That'd be wonderful.
I will do that. So, how long is the anniversary show? Because I once saw a rather prestigious musician, and he played 6 songs in 54 minutes, and I was a little perturbed.
Yeah, we don't do that. And I mean, Paul and I can drive each other crazy because we really try to pace these shows very, very well. And I'm a micromanager when it comes to, we can really only afford this song to go for 3 minutes and 15 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
can drive Paul crazy. But the upshot of it is we bring in these concerts which are packed with great songs and good commentary and multimedia. I come back to that again. There going to be about 100 still images rear projected, but it's it, we bring them in at 2 hours. That's the goal, is to bring the whole thing in at 2 hours, including intermission. And we usually come pretty darn close to that, Paul.
Yeah. And what Bill mentioned about coming in at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, I was just talking about Duke Ellington to my class, so he's kind of on my mind. But between 1938 and 42, that's often called the 3-minute masterpiece band. Because Ellington was forced to write things that would fit under 3 minutes on one side of a record.
Right.
So that sounds constricting, but it also provides a different type of focus. Okay, and so this is when Ellington produces Harlem Airshaft and Concerto for Cootie, and it's just all in 3 minutes and just total magnificence. But then when the technology changed, then he would start writing 2-hour sacred concerts, and that's a whole different story. But I enjoy a fair amount of structure. It focuses my mind, and I have to kind of distill whatever I want to use into a shorter time period. And sometimes that creates a better result. It's all good. So,
gentlemen, if you can give me the date of the concert in January that the musical theater project is performing.
I'm always terrible on dates, but here, I'm looking at my calendar. Saturday, the 24th of January. At 7:30.
Okay. I'll be there twice, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'll sneak in.
Hey, good.
Paul, all I need is stairs. I can sit on stairs.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Gentlemen, I greatly appreciate the time. Very much looking forward to this performance. It seems like, from my perspective, this is going to be a lot of fun. And just to sit back and enjoy the music. And here, I have a very bad habit. It's not a bad habit. It's just sometimes the way I enjoy music. I like to sit in the very back of the house and kind of rest my head up against the wall and just listen.
Yeah.
And I told that to a musician one time, and he said, "Darrell, we need more people like you." I'm not sure about all of that, but there are days when you just want to hear good music, acoustically correct, rhythmically correct, and to me that's more enjoyable, as opposed to you don't have to talk to me. It's not that I'm being rude. I just want to enjoy this music. That's all I want to do.
Oh yeah.
All I want to do. Bill, you're far funnier than you think. You're far funnier than you think.
Paul brings it out in me.
Okay. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for the time. This is Jazz in the Land. I'm Darrell Scott. This is the official CJO podcast. We'll talk to you next.
The Cleveland Jazz Orchestra has been Northeast Ohio's premier jazz voice since 1985. Led by award-winning composer and trombonist Paul Ferguson, the CJO promotes jazz in its historical and contemporary forms through concerts featuring a stellar lineup of jazz luminaries, arrangers, composers, and educators. At a CJO concert, you will enjoy the best jazz you've ever heard and the best jazz you've never heard. Through inventive, original music and effective, innovative educational outreach, the CJO shepherds young musicians and provides our region with unique and important cultural experiences.
Welcome. This is Jazz in the Land, the original CJO podcast. I am Darrell Scott. Today, I don't know if you've ever, and I don't know, I ask questions based upon my lack of knowledge. I'll say it that way. Every band, the CJO has its own rhythm section. This is one of the rhythm sections. This is the best rhythm section they have. So we want to talk to them. I want to figure out, first of all, if you can tell us how you got to the CJO and what your role is as the rhythm section of the CJO is. And I'm a gentleman. Jackie Warren, you may start first.
How I got there and what my role is. It's a band that I've always wanted to play in. After moving to coming to Ohio to go to Oberlin Conservatory, and then going out to concerts and hearing like the great Jack Shantz playing, for instance, or just, it's always like killer players in the band. So super proud to have been asked and be a part of that. I think I've been playing, gosh, since when Sean Jones became the director. He asked me, so that was a super big honor to be asked. And then I've been playing with them ever since, and meeting up with Jim and Aidan in the process. We try to play some of our own gigs on the side as well. But I guess for me the role is we're a unit. We're not only the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra, but we're the trio is like Jim has named us the Engine Room, which is the coolest name for a trio. And I mean, Jim is really the one who drives the bus, but we're all like a team that supports the big band. It's so much fun.
Okay. Jim, let's hear from you then.
Actually, I filled in, I don't know, over the years a few times when somebody couldn't do a concert or something. And I lived on the west side of Columbus, so it's a little bit of a jaunt. But here about 15 years ago, my wife and I moved kind of between Columbus and Cleveland. We bought a little spot. My neighbors were all Amish. So all of a sudden I can be in Cleveland in an hour and a half. And when an opening happened, I knew some of the guys from previous gigs and stuff. And yeah, I'm like Jackie. I was, flattered to be asked and honored to be doing it. This rhythm section is so much fun. You just want to smile all evening, and the band's great. And I think the other thing about the band is the writing, is so original and creative. Look at charts Aidan does, and then obviously Paul and Brad Wagner's stuff. I'm trying to think. I'm going to miss somebody if I don't. Chaz Baker writes stuff. I mean, the writing is what really makes it fun too.
And last but never not least, Aidan.
Okay, so I began. Like Jim, I had worked with the CJO prior to kind of being officially the bassist. I grew up in this area. I grew up in Oberlin, Ohio, and my teacher for jazz bass was Dave Morgan, who was the bassist in the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra prior to me. And so even like as a teenager, sometimes I would sub for Dave in the CJO, but it was I'd say about 11 or 12 years ago that it was Sean Jones's last season with the group, and I started playing a few concerts there, and then after doing two, they asked me to finish out the whole season. I've been playing ever since. But yeah, it's a great honor to work with the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra, and I have a lot of fun with it.
What is it about this orchestra that makes you all say that you were honored to play with this group of musicians? Sorry, tough question. Aidan,
No.
you go. Oh.
Go ahead, Aidan.
Well, I mean, it's an honor because for me, growing up in this area, wanting to be a jazz musician, the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra was a great place to see many of the greatest jazz musicians living in Cleveland play at the same time. So I would go to see them, and I thought it was really amazing. And when you're coming up on a scene, there's one thing you're trying to do is kind of like strive to work with those people that inspire you. So like Jackie said, it was just kind of like a dream to get to work with the group. But even more than that, it's an honor presently because the caliber of music's really very high, and the musicianship is so high, and there are just so many inspiring musicians in the orchestra right now that it's kind of amazing to get to work with all those folks.
Okay, Jim.
I'm like Aidan. I'm originally from Canton, so I knew Jack and Paul. Jack's a couple years older than me, Jack Shantz, and Paul Ferguson is a few years younger, and he's actually from right next to where I grew up. So I would see that stuff that Roland Palucci, first did in the band, and it's subbed, I think, back then, and then subbed a couple times from when Jack Shantz led the band. So the musicianship is really high. the creative writing, like I said. The other thing is it's a great vibe. The band has a great, fun, positive vibe. There's no big egos. There's no big darkness. You walk on stage, you just want to smile. The jokes start a little bit, the kidding. To me, that makes music. You want to make music with your friends, and that's what this is doing. But they just happen to be killing musicians.
Okay. Jackie?
Um, I would have to say all of those same things true, like making music with your friends, and when you're, a young musician and you get that chance to, in any band, work with somebody who's older and more experienced, it's like taking a lesson every time, like uh, from the writing to the playing. That's how I've always felt about any of the groups I've been in. My piano teacher for jazz, among many, but personally was Neil Creaky, and he was like, go out and experience like all of these things because it's going to make you a better musician. And I still feel that way constantly. Like every time we play a concert, Aidan uh, will write some challenging piece for me to play, and any of the writers will write some amazing things in the group, and it's always broadening my experience and my fun just to be like, oh man, this is gonna. In my uh, other part of my jazz life, playing gigs with other people, it's influences the depth of my playing, and I just love it.
There are two things that come to mind now, and I asked Paul Ferguson this question. I would like to see, and Aiden, maybe this more so falls on you, when you get a song and then you have to rearrange it or do whatever it is you do, I would love to hear the previous version and then what changes you have made. And I'd like to hear them right next to each other. That's just me. To hear the changes, to hear what you've done, so forth and so on. How do you guys feel about that, or what what does it take to make that change?
Which change to like
The
change
change,
the music?
the change of music.
Uh,
I mean, you get the original version or whatever version you get, and then you make changes to it. That's what I'd love to hear, the original and then the changes you've made afterwards.
well, I mean, I can answer that a bit more broadly in that, like, it's just that's exactly what jazz musicians have always done in many ways. Like the earliest jazz recordings, there's some original compositions, but a lot of it is popular tunes from the era, and they syncopate it and paraphrase it, and then it feels like a jazz recording. So, you know, if I'm following a little bit of where you were going, like it is interesting to have the juxtaposition of the two different pieces, like an original version and an arrangement. It's a little bit tricky in this era because I don't think we can any longer assume that the general public has an awareness of the
Right.
earlier versions.
Yes.
So like it used to be you play All the Things You Are, and that would have been a song that everybody knew, and now people don't know it so much. So maybe the changes you make as an arranger or just a jazz musician in general might have been seem a little bit more significant a long time ago. Now it all just kind of sounds like jazz to people. But we do this creative thing, and we really just try to the way I think about playing jazz and the way I think about being both an arranger or composer, but also a bassist, is that my whole job is just to try to make things sound better. So, when I'm playing behind a soloist in the CJO, I feel like I'm doing my job when I make them sound better. I feel like I'm doing my job when the whole orchestra sounds better. And if I'm lucky, if I've arranged something, I've done a good job when the piece might sound a little bit better, or the whole ensemble gets steered in a certain direction. But it's all a very similar thing to me. Like you're just aiming to improve things a little bit. Some pieces can't be much improved though, so
Mhm.
that's something you have to be careful of.
Okay. Jim or Jackie?
Go ahead, Jackie.
Oh, well, I was just going to say a couple things. One thing about some of the cool arrangements that people do, either of existing tunes or originals, I really enjoy the fact that us as a rhythm section, we can steer the direction of sometimes of what the vibe of the tune is going to be, and a lot of times the writers will leave sort of a space open for us to, do our own thing upon it. So, like, we're giving, let's say, Paul arranges a tune, and he'll, for instance, he'll write some chords for the piano that they're not playable on the piano because there's only 10 fingers, right? So he's showing you what he is. No, and like, so what you learn to figure out is it's that he's showing you what the whole orchestration is, and then it's your job to pick out like what would be cool to you and what would support the rest of the band. So sometimes that doesn't always make for the best of sight reading, but it makes for a lot of fun trying to figure out how can I fit this in. I mean, it's very similar to my first big band experiences when I was playing Thad Jones charts. On Thad's piano chart, he writes every single, like if there's like a big like orchestral soli, he'll write every single chord change over every eighth note hit or whatever. Like there'll be 20 in a row, and I used to think, wow, I've got to play all those. No, I can pick or choose what I like to that will support the ensemble. So I do like. I feel like the original writing, in particular, lends itself to us as a rhythm section creating new ideas.
Jim, what about you?
Question, but
Well, I guess I don't do any arranging, but I think, when we do a chart, I think that's one of the fun things, whoever, whether it's Paul or Aidan or Brad or whomever, how do you take a classic piece of music and make it a little more interesting without losing that character? Or, some tunes, a great tune, think of the example of, I never realized till, I don't know how many years ago, that On Green Dolphin Street, classic jazz tune, done by Miles and all kinds of different ways to people, jazz musicians played over the years. It was like a real slow, syrupy ballad in some kind of B-plus movie back in the day. It's not that hip, but, I don't know if Miles was probably the first guy I heard take it and made something out of it. He took something there and really made something out of it. The original's kind of lame, no offense to, I can't remember who wrote the tune. It's just the syrupy thing, but man, it's a great chart for jazz musicians to take off on.
How long has this trio as a rhythm section been playing together?
I don't know, guys.
Wow. I love, if everybody could see the expressions on your faces, it'd be priceless right now. Everybody's like looking skyward.
Right. We're all thinking, how long has it been?
I'd say because Jackie and Jim were playing in the band before me, it's when I started playing. So it's a little over a decade.
That's what I was going to say, 12 years, maybe?
Yeah.
10, 12 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How as a trio, as a rhythm section, have you all grown together?
Jackie, you want to go first?
yeah, I would say I don't know, really just from moment one of us all three playing together. You realize, like, you just have the realization that this is a thing. This is we are our own group within the group, and so the wealth of experience that someone like Jim brings to the group, like, not that you're an older musician, Jim. I'm older now too, but like all the you've played with so many famous bands, and all of your experience comes into that. Aidan, all of your experience. I mean, Aidan and I have been playing on and off together in other groups and stuff. So the three of us together, I feel like I just want to keep playing more and more. In fact, I'm just trying to get us a gig. I just sent you guys a text trying to get another trio gig for us, because I feel like that enhances our experience when we are, playing with the big band. the more we play together as a trio, we just lock in even tighter.
It,
Jim?
it, or- it reminds me, I had one of my favorite teachers. I went to Ohio State in the 70s in music ed, and I had a really great string methods teacher. As a music ed major, you have to understand the basics of every instrument. You have to be a, master of anything, but you need to be able to talk to a fourth grader and show them the basics. And I had this string teacher named Bob Culver, who was one of my favorite teachers. And it reminds me, I've always thought of this. He said to have a great orchestra, he's obviously teaching us, violin and cello and string bass and stuff in an orchestra setting. But the best orchestras have really great small groups, string quartets and stuff like that. And that really, in your school band program or your school orchestra program, you need to do that. And I think the same thing is true in a jazz setting, especially the rhythm section. The great, you listen to all those bands and when all the horns drop out, it's a trio with a soloist, or it's just a trio. So the more we play together, the more that gets comfort there. And I tell my students at Ohio State that, if you go into a new situation, you're new players, keep the train on the track, keep things, solid and comfortable. But then once you realize, oh, they can hear what I'm doing, you don't have to be obvious anymore. You can let things flow and everybody's listening. That's what really makes it fun.
And I can add, I think something that's great about us as a trio is that we all have these different backgrounds, really, or different types of music that we're really, really excited about. Like Jackie's like really into this amazing salsa music and Latin jazz, and Jim is this amazingly seasoned veteran big band drummer, and I've tended to like more kind of esoteric avant-garde ECM type music, and that's but like I can give Jim a huge compliment. Like I never liked playing in a big band until I played with Jim, so that really changed for me. But the thing that I think is so great about what we're trying to do as a trio is, like, instead of just embracing our role in the CJO, we've also decided, like, we like playing together. And so these different kind of ingredients and things that we both that all three of us really like, they kind of come together to create this really unique sound. And like, we're all in agreement that the places where we're all coming out of the same thing get stronger because of that. But then the unique kind of different flavor we all bring to the group, it started, in my opinion, I don't know how Jim and Jackie feel, but in my opinion, it started to take on its own sound. And that's something that's really always been so inspiring to me. Like, I love piano trios. I love the Bill Evans trio. I love Ahmad Jamal. I love the Wynton Kelly trio. I love the Three Sounds. That's always been something I really, really love. So, and I like how all those piano trios I just mentioned, they have like a different flavor to them, and it's because of the three individuals. So we've kind of developed our own unique sound as a group, but all three of us are coming from slightly different angles too.
All right, Aidan, you mentioned Ahmad Jamal. You gotta do somewhere. The three of you need to get together and do Ponciana by Ahmad Jamal. I think it's one of the greatest songs of all time. I just
yeah, it's incredible.
And it's one of those things. It's like, you can't see the room I'm in, but there's a lot of wax or CDs, whatever you want to call it. That, but not for me. I have the album, I have the CD, and I think Digital Works has Ponciana on it. And that's one of those things. The wife will go, "When are you gonna clean up all this mess that you've created in here?" I'm not getting rid of that. That's one of those things you keep just to have, just to make sure that you can do it. What, to be purely selfish, when is this trio coming out with their own CD, with their own music that I can just walk into a store and download or do whatever? Not to put you all under any pressure.
That's a great idea. Let's plan it.
Okay.
I can say we do have a project that we recorded in the summer with Brad Wagner and the trumpet player Garrett Folger. Actually, Jim and Jackie haven't heard it, but I've heard the final mixes. It sounds really good. So that should be out eventually. I'd say within a year you could hear
Okay.
that. It's not just a trio disc, but it's us just with two great horn players.
Have you ever had that desire to let's kind of step outside and let's kind of do our own thing? Because I'm interested to hear that. I'm always interested to hear the different, I'll call them flavors, that each individual can bring to a jazz tune. So let me know when that comes out. I'll do my best to get it out to the world. It'll be all on my social media and everything I can do, providing
Great.
providing that I get an autographed copy.
Sure.
Okay.
That
I
can
got
be arranged.
Okay. Who are the musicians that the three of you look up to? If I said, give me an example of who got you this far, who would it be? Jackie?
Shall I go first, or you want to
Yeah,
go
Jackie,
first?
go first.
So, like, who inspired me to become a jazz musician?
Yes.
Oscar Peterson, number one.
Very good.
I mean, I grew up in very small town, rural Colorado, and there was, the radio stations choices were either like hard rock, which is cool, or Christian rock, or talk radio. Like there was nothing happening in
Hmm.
that area at the time. So I learned every TV show theme that, especially anything jazz related. But then I was able to hook up with a piano teacher in Colorado Springs, which is about 40 miles from where I lived, and she played me my first Oscar Peterson recording on a reel to reel. She'd play me something every week to kind of blow my mind, like Rachmaninoff playing his own stuff and various things. But then when she played Oscar Peterson, I've Got the World on a String with the trio, I was like, okay, that's it. Like it's like a lightning bolt being struck by lightning. I want to do that. I mean, I was kind of that way with a lot of music because uh, the lack of just knowledge of classical music as
Right.
well. I got knocked out by Chopin and various things, but like that was the moment when I was like, oh, I need to be swinging for the rest of my life. So and took it from there.
Okay. Jim, what about you?
Well, I came from, again, Canton, and we had a really good high school band program all around, but our band director, Joe Michigi, great guy, Canton Glenwood. I call him every Christmas. Um, had a good high school jazz band, but he took us to see the Count Basie band at Moonlight Ballroom when I was in school. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I love this. I want to do this. And, years later, I'm traveling with jazz singer Diane Shure, and we did some days in New York where we played with the Basie band. And by this time, I'm in my 30s. I'm not 18 anymore. But the chills on my back, because that's what I first got me fired up was
Hmm.
listening to that band. And there was a great drummer at Kent State who became lifelong friends, a guy named Bob Kamel.
Hmm.
He played in that Kent State band with Dobbins and Chaz Baker and all those guys. And I remember in high school seeing Bob, and I'm thinking, and Bob was a killing player. He spent most of his career between Chicago and Vegas playing with Frank Sinatra Jr., a longtime player, great
Hmm.
guy. But then I get to like later high school and college, all of a sudden I'm discovering Philly Joe Jones and Tony Williams and Mel Lewis and Elvin, all these other great players. And, you broadened your whole perspective.
Hmm.
Um, so Ben, there's so many players. I think we can all go through a list of, 100 players who inspired us.
Nice. Lastly, Aidan?
So I grew up in Oberlin, where Jackie mentioned the conservatories there. My dad, he still teaches in the music history department there. And I had this really in many ways, a very charmed upbringing musically. But the biggest thing was, I was always seeing concerts from the time I was a really little kid. And then, my grandfather had a jazz radio show in Louisville, Kentucky called Time Out for Jazz. And he would make me cassette tapes when I was a little kid. And so I was like the only little kid probably in the country building Legos and listening to Louis Armstrong and early Duke Ellington. And I had heard, these great bassists like Slam Stewart and Israel Crosby and Truck Parham and Pops Foster and all those early jazz players. And I like that a lot. But I was a little bit more into comic books when I started playing the bass than the bass. But my uncle, who's a drummer, he came and visited us once for a Christmas holiday, and he gave me a cassette tape of Bill Evans, the Village Vanguard, and I heard Scott LaFaro play on that, and it was like this moment where a switch got flipped or something, and I just decided. I remember hearing that and thinking, like, I don't know how I'll do that, but like that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I've been trying to do that ever since.
Excellent. You all do a very fine job. Next time you three are together, I got to find out so I can make sure that I am there. Greatly appreciate the time. Aidan Plank, Jim Rupp, Jackie Warren. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and gracing us with your knowledge. You've been listening to Jazz in the Land, the original CJO podcast. I'm Darrell Scott.
This has been Jazz in the Land, the CJO podcast on behalf of the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra. Thanks so much to our board and staff and audience and supporters, and especially to the crew that makes this podcast possible, including host Darrell Scott, producers Scott Marsh and George Carr, and associate producer Ricky Exton. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to sharing jazz with you in the future.